Okay, so let's go into this topic. It is a topic that is going to, let's just be honest about it, get people a little frizzy around the corners, a little frizzy around the sides, because, as you know, some people who very strongly support President Biden also have to somehow validate the support of massive, kind of unrestrained immigration, right? Some people get angry if you say illegal immigrants. Some people say, these are future Americans. We need to love them and hug them. So the bottom line is, we are now getting into the bleep throwing phase of comments between President Biden and President Trump. Now, where this all comes from, and I want you to understand this because this is important, there is going to be a war over who will love Social Security benefits more. We have two parents. They've divorced the Americans at this point, and now birthday time is coming up, meaning the election period, and they have to get the child each the most magnificent gift ever given, ever given. And that, of course, are promises for Social Security benefits going forward. Now, with that said, you have President Biden, who supports not changing Social Security benefits and wants to tax the rich above $400,000 of income 15+% more. The only problem with that plan, of course, is that unfortunately, this will directly cause everybody to have to pay 15% more, because when you tax the rich more, they pass the cost on to the consumer. Because when you tax them more, it's a cost of business. That's just how it works. There's no way around it. It's just how it works. So making the rich pay their fair share is also saying making everybody else pay the rich's share, the rich people's share. That's it. There's no left or right of it. It is what it is. If you increase the cost of the rich, it will then directly increase the cost of the middle income and the poor to buy those items that the rich control. Because obviously, very, very simply put, the government controls minimum wage. They can keep shooting it up. And as they do, the cost of everything increases with it, because it's a cost of business increase. And to make things very simple, very straightforward, let's just be honest with this thing, okay? If you increase rich people's taxes by 15%, everything else will go up by 15%, from widgets to grocery items to car stuff to whatever. Things that you put on the shelf, things that you write with. That's it. So is making the rich pay their fair share a great idea? No, it's moronic. It's absolutely horrific. It will basically bankrupt the lower middle class and put the poor into homelessness, and the homelessness won't be able to get essentially donations from the middle class. Horrible idea. Absolutely terrible. On the other side, you have President Trump, who has zero plan going forward for Social Security benefits. Now, what is better? A shit plan, the Biden team, or a no plan, the Republican team? Well, technically, the Trump team has no plan. The Republicans have released a plan to make essentially Social Security benefits, let's just call it like it is, shittier. Okay? They're going to raise the retirement age. They're going to go ahead and create this system that is no bueno for essentially people who are younger, who will have to pay in more, live longer to get it out of it. Okay. Also, please say howdy to the moderator, guys. She's working right there and she's putting the waves out. Say howdy to her. And it's a Social Security Disability moderator. Say howdy to her. So with that said, okay, I need you to understand that Trump has zero plan. The Republicans have a plan, but the plan is make it shittier for everybody so that we can afford the trust funds in the future. Now, with that said, we're now going to get to the mudslinging part of this video. All right, Trump fundraising. This came from a left-leaning paper, so I just want to, I understand if you guys come through with this and say, hey, what the hell, yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. All right, here we go. Trump fundraising email falsely claims Biden's immigration policies will destroy Social Security. Millions of undocumented immigrants pay into the Social Security Retirement Trust Fund but aren't eligible to receive benefits. That's true. They never build up enough quarters of coverage. This is by Daniel Morans and Arthur Delaney. It was produced on April 8th, 2024. Now, here we go. I'm going to read to you real quick what it says. Then I'm going to give you my take on what's actually going on. Former President Donald Trump claimed in a fundraising email on Sunday that President Joe Biden flipped the bird to every senior citizen because giving legal status to undocumented immigrants will destroy Social Security. Biden's border bloodbath is bringing crime It's bringing violence. But the next target, your Social Security. Now, he's not wrong about the bringing crime. Okay. He's not wrong about basically it being very, very, very serious crime. But I don't know about this whole coming for your Social Security part. I don't see that as truly the result of what's going to happen. Now, friend, and this is another quote, friend, the Democrat push to give mass amnesty to millions of illegals will destroy Social Security. Let's go through this. The message from Trump's campaign committee and the Republican National Committee offers a misleading impression about how immigration affects Social Security. Undocumented immigrants are not eligible to receive Social Security retirement benefits, but many nevertheless pay into the Social Security system through payroll deductions. It's misdirection and fear-mongering to take people's eye off the fact that Trump and his billionaires are the ones plotting to destroy Social Security day and night, said Alex Lawson, executive director of the progressive group Social Security Works. In a break from his GOP predecessors, Donald Trump has stated his opposition to Social Security and Medicare cuts. But as president, he went after Social Security disability benefits, which is not inaccurate. Trump wasn't super great when it comes to Commissioner Saul's rules and regulations when it comes to being found disabled. They changed all the rules, especially the appeal rules. Okay, the data clearly shows that undocumented immigrants are beneficial to Social Security's finances rather than harmful. In 2010, 3.1 million undocumented immigrants contributed $13 billion in payroll taxes to Social Security without the opportunity to claim benefits, according to a 2013 estimate by Stephen Goss, the chief actuary on behalf of the SSA. Even plans to provide undocumented immigrants a pathway to citizenship as part of the comprehensive immigration reform are projected to have an ameliorative, that means good, effect on Social Security finances. The Bipartisan Comprehensive Immigration Reform Bill of 2013, for example, which tied so-called amnesty to stricter border enforcement and increased legal immigration, would have extended Social Security solvency by 2 years. The reason immigrants have a positive impact on the program, even when they are legally entitled to collect benefits, is because they skew younger and are more likely to be employed even as compared to their young native-born peers. Which is that if they come here, the expectation that he's making is that more so than native-born individuals, they will actually work to earn to pay for things. The cost rate decreases with an increase in total net immigration because immigration occurs at relatively young ages, thereby increasing the number of covered workers earlier than the number of beneficiaries. Social Security's trustees wrote in their 2023 annual report, which estimates that a net increase of 100,000 legal immigrants per year would provide a modest but notable boost to the program's finances. Social Security retirement program faces a long-term funding shortfall with trust fund reserves and projected payroll tax revenues sufficient to cover all benefits until they say 2034. It's more like 2033, at which point the reserves are expected to run dry and incoming revenue will cover only 77%. They're also saying 75% of promised benefits. Okay. To close that funding gap, Republicans have generally favored spending cuts such as raising eligibility ages, right? You got to retire later in life, while Democrats focus on increasing revenue, which will just make you all pay more because if they tax the rich more, they will just pass that on as a cost of business. So basically 2 shit sides. That's your option. You got bad and bad. That's it. That's what you got. Biden's fiscal 2025 budget includes a broadly worded proposal to require, broadly worded is like a cute way of saying not a real plan, to require higher earners to pay into Social Security on all their earnings. It's not a detailed plan. It needs to be more detailed. It's like tax the rich and hope it works out. Currently, Americans pay into Social Security on the first $168,600 of their earnings, but also do not receive benefits tied to their pay above that level. Since his political ascent in 2016, Trump has differed from other Republicans by professing his opposition to direct benefit cuts to the 2 popular social insurance programs. During the 2024 Republican presidential primary, he specifically attacked former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley for embracing cuts to Social Security, including an increase in the retirement age. Haley said she wants to raise Social Security retirement age to match life expectancy, which means that she wants it to go up to about 77. Is everybody happy with that? He said at the New Hampshire rally in late January, it's not going to happen with us, from Trump. But as president, Trump did go after Social Security more politically vulnerable disability benefit programs, the programs I interact with. In 2020, Trump tried to increase the number of benefit reviews that would throw more beneficiaries out of the program and instituted a rule banning benefits for people whose disabilities limit them to part-time work but do not prevent them from working altogether. So the first thing is true, but also bullshitty. They had a rule where it was like, for they could review with the CDR after 1 year or 3 years. Trump wanted the 2-year option. So to be fair, like they could just do 2 1 years in a row. So that's a little bullshitty of an argument. That's not a real fair. That's a little misleading. The second one, part-time work, but not prevent them from working altogether. That was a shitty move on behalf of Trump via Commissioner Saul. Trump has even suggested that he agrees with more conventional Republican colleagues about the need to cut Social Security benefits, but that he sees it as politically unwise. Well, no shit. Nobody's going to want to vote for that. There's a lot you can do in terms of entitlements, in terms of cutting, and in terms of also the theft and the bad management of entitlements, tremendous bad management of entitlements, Trump said on CNBC in March. The Biden campaign has hammered Trump for the comment. The remarks echoed something Trump told CNBC in January 2020 when he said of Social Security and Medicare cuts, at the right time, he will take a look at that. As for mass amnesty, Biden has previously supported creating a pathway to citizenship for undocumented immigrants living in the U.S., but more recently, he endorses an immigration reform and border security bill that admitted such a pathway. If Congress were to immediately allow 10 million undocumented immigrants to become citizens and therefore eligible for Social Security benefits, something Biden has not proposed, the policy change would be a net drain on program finances, according to the Center for Immigration Studies, a think tank that opposes high levels of immigration. All right, so that's a lot of fluff, a lot of here, there, I get it, okay? I get it. But here's the bottom line, okay? Here's the problem. When it comes to immigration, they are not counting the amount of people who are going to go onto the 7-year asylum seeker, refugee seeker, immigrant that get the 7-year SSI benefits. So for a chunk of that time, they're going to be enjoying SSI benefits with the 2-year up option. Some of them will still want to work during that 7-year period to go ahead and increase the money that they have going forward. So the reality is you're going to have lots of people coming into the U.S. that have a different culture than many U.S. individuals. In the U.S., the men are expected to work and they don't earn that much. And the women are expected to work and they don't earn that much. And at the end of the day, everybody's expected to work. That's just the bottom line. That's how it's come down. Feminism kind of like, created a monster here where now everybody has to work. The nuclear family got zipped, right? That's the reality of it. So as a result, you have other individuals coming to this country who don't practice that. Some cultures in South America don't practice that. Some cultures from Arab nations don't practice that. So as a result, what you're going to see is basically some conflicting cultures when it comes to people who are going to be working and not working. So as a result of that, I'm looking at this situation and saying, I think it's an oversimplification that having a lot of immigrants, let's say 10 million, go ahead and be waved by the wand into U.S. citizenship. It has its benefits and it has its negatives. Let's go through some of the realistic benefits and some of the realistic negatives with this situation. Okay. For those immigrants that come into this country, a lot of them are going to be a little bit older, right? They're not going to be 1-year-old, 2-year-old, 3-year-old for the most part. A lot of them are going to be older. So they're going to get into the working field, right, a bit sooner. They might need more education, more assimilation, whatever, but they're going to be closer to working age or currently in working age. Now, with that said, right, those individuals, when they go to work, a lot of them are going to find under the table jobs. Some will find payroll-oriented jobs. When they're doing payroll-oriented jobs, they'll be paying into usually, sometimes you can exempt them, usually, right? And again, one more time, sometimes they can be exempt. They have it in the payroll company, in the payroll program. Usually they will be paying, okay, your FICA taxes, your retirement trust fund money, your disability trust fund money, and your, Medicare trust fund money, usually. But again, caveat, a lot of these individuals are going to have a hard time as they transition from illegal to legal migrants to basically go ahead and find a job that would traditionally work essentially for, their particular situation. So just to be fair, and I just want this to be very clear, I want this to be very accurate, I want this to be very forward. I don't see an immediate increase in the retirement trust fund by immigrants coming into this country and getting validated to become citizens, getting a green card, going through the process. I don't see them immediately increasing the trust funds because of the SSI 7-year program that they'll go on to, many of them. And then also quite a few of them culturally, some of them will be in relationships and some of them won't work. Some will work, because remember, they're used to living on a much, much smaller amount than most Americans are. Their ability to have food and a shelter is like cool for many of them. Although, to be fair, the management of SSI and SSDI benefits and retirement benefits has been so gross that now many of those individuals are living in that fashion too. They're happy to purely survive. They're happy to get food, four walls, a roof, and that's about it. That's it. That's all they get. So the point that I'm trying to get across here is in the long term, right? Okay. We will see immigrants becoming citizens helping the trust funds. Here's why. There are a lot of people that don't have enough children. They just don't, right? They just don't have enough children. And as a result of not having enough children, the US government doesn't have enough people to tax, right? They don't have enough young kids becoming young adults and then taxing the shit out of them over and over and over to pay for other people. That's the system, right? That's the system. Now, the government also has another problem. Lots of these major corporations are consolidating, right? Which means that they don't need as many people. They don't need 200 HR people. They only need 150 HR people. They don't need 5,000 salespeople. They only need 2,500 salespeople. So you're seeing a lot of companies consolidate and consolidate and consolidate. And once they all consolidate down, yes, you have a monopolistic capitalism with a bunch of monopolies for particular industries. Sure, you've got that. But they just don't need to employ as many people, which means they don't have to pay as many people. And if there's fewer, capitalism-based competition, Company A is trying to beat out Company B, then guess what? They get to pay all the employees in Company A that survived and became super company a lot less. There's no more competition. Where else are they going to get a job? That's the bottom line. So the point that I'm really getting at with this whole situation, just so that you understand my perspective on this, is that I know that we have to have immigrants. I know that. We just don't have enough natural born citizens making enough kids. We don't. And we don't because the traditional nuclear family died, right? Back in the day, very simple definition, the guy, doopy 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 doop, would go to work. He'd earn money and he'd pay for his family. He would take care of his family. And that's how it worked. Like that was the standard. That was the heartbeat of America. The guy goes and works. She stays home. She has the kids. She works with the kids, make sure they go to school, raises them well, yada, yada, so on and so forth. That was the mix, right? Now we don't have that because financially it doesn't work the same way. Most guys don't earn enough to pay for an entire house and a wife and kids and 2 cars and a big screen TV. They don't have the money like they used to, right? Now, that's massive devaluation of our currency, which goes to, of course, the Biden proposal to raise, make the rich pay their fair share. But all that's going to do is make every product that you buy cost 15% more. And you've already had a 35% likely increase over the past 3 years. Nobody's got their finger on exactly what it is. But I think we can all agree our money is not worth what it used to be. Every time we look at the Monopoly board, the money changes to a worse, type of financial, dollar color, so that when you look at it, instead of you having the $100 bill, now you're looking at the $20 bill. Now you're looking at the $5 bill. So the point that I'm getting at with this is that long-term purposes of immigration are going to be helpful to the trust funds. Short-term immigration for the next 10 years is going to be harmful to the overall trust system. Now, I want to go through the next point with this. That way you guys kind of know what's going on. Yes, it will expand the workforce, but as it expands the workforce, a lot of these jobs where they can get them under the table, not have to worry about taxes, yada, yada, those won't be going to Americans that woulda, coulda, shoulda worked them. Now, people will always argue that they weren't going to work them anyways. And as somebody who grew up on a farm and literally has to weed whack around horse manure, I can tell you that, yeah, we still do that stuff. We Americans still do that stuff. So the point is, it's going to take jobs away from those individuals that would traditionally work the job, pay traditional taxes on it if they were going to do that to begin with. So from my perspective, it's going to hurt the value of the dollar a little bit, because all of a sudden the value of the dollar isn't getting used and taxed as the system was intended to be used and taxed. So, there's a potential problem there. Now, there is let's talk about this. Another thing that's going to happen with this. A lot of immigrants, Trump got rid of this for the most part. We're getting onto disability benefits using the language barrier situation. Low education, language barrier, boom, they get onto SSI disability benefits very easily. They changed that so that English and Spanish were included. But the point is, if you can't speak English or Spanish, then it's one of those situations where it's much easier for you to get onto for the rest of your life SSI. I foresee I foresee that they will change SSI benefit potential grid out rules when it comes to not being able to speak English, not being able to speak Spanish. I foresee them changing that to include every language, or just getting rid of that option in total, or basically having it so that you really can't speak any language for the most part. I expect them to actually change that, because the problem is people who don't speak the cultural language, English, Spanish, right? All of a sudden, yes, they are at a massive, disproportionate ability to successfully navigate society, right? You go into Walmart, you go into, Home Depot, you go into whatever store, right? Whatever store. And the things are in English and Spanish usually. So you're not going to be able to go ahead and translate and figure it out from there. With that said, to be fair, what happens with a lot of immigrants nowadays is that basically you'll have a male and a female. They'll have a lot of kids, and then the reality is that, right, they'll never get married. They never get married because, remember, if they get married, the husband's income gets deemed, which is why I usually don't see people who basically, have a lot of, like a female that has kids with another man. You'll never see them get married. If any of the kids are on SSI, or if she's on SSI, because there's this deeming element. The deeming element is part of the 5-step sequential process for SSI, supplemental security income. And what it is in element one, they look at essentially the parent's income and they look at the spouse's income and they deem it. What they mean by deeming it is to see if they make too much to not be able to go into the poverty program. Now, the way the federal government keeps changing how they look at this situation is that they keep changing essentially how they're looking at who's actually married. So, for example, they'll look at, just to simplify things, they'll basically look at whether or not two people are holding out as married, right? And so the bottom line is they don't rely on an actual marriage certificate. They don't rely on, something that's in paper. They look at whether or not these two people are living together. They look at whether or not these two people are sharing, basically, a water bill, a power bill, a house bill, a whatever bill. They look at that, whether or not they're doing that. So, they'll know, okay, this child came from this person, this child came from that person. Are they cohabitating? And so as a result, what happens is a lot of these SSI recipients are smart. They're very smart about it. They'll learn about this rule and they'll be like, oh, no, 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 I don't want to get hit with deeming. And so what happens is if the husband goes out and works and earns like more than 35K, right? So from an immigrant standpoint, like that husband will go out, he'll work, he'll get a job. It'll be more than 35K at some point. And then he can't be married to her or holding out as married together, because what happens is they'll look at her income and say, whoa, 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 whoa. His income is over 35K. And it's around there. It depends on how many children and all that stuff. But just use 35K as a round figure. He's earning over 35K. Ergo, you shouldn't be able to access SSI benefits. And that's called deeming. So I think that immigrants will be really smart about this going forward. They just won't get married. They won't hold themselves out as being married. They'll always have their addresses at different locations, but they'll probably meet up, hang out, all that stuff. However, the future of SSA is changing. You know how they have those CDR units that are investigating people? I can bet you a shiny nickel those investigators will go out and look at those, immigrants and say, hey, are you two hanging out a bunch? Even though you have different addresses, you're living three doors down. And so that's why when a lot of people are like, well, I don't get it. I don't know why she doesn't get married, or I don't know why he doesn't marry her, or blah, blah, blah. That's because of the deeming element. And you're going to see that with immigrants playing a very smart role where they're going to go ahead and be able to get as much benefits as possible. And the reason why is, let's say that she has, 1 kid, 2 kid, whatever, 3 kids, whatever. The point is, when she has these kids, if the husband or the wife of those children, the natural parents, essentially has too much income, then the kids will lose their SSI benefits. Not a good situation, very bad situation. And so the reality is, I see from the SSI perspective that the deeming element will be something that's really a cutoff valve. But most of that stuff happens in review after a 7-year period. And I'll do a video specifically on the 7-year period and how it actually works. So that is what it is. Now, with that said, I want to go through another thing that's going to affect immigration with the United States. So the basic thing is that we will likely see, as a result of more immigrants, policy changes at the SSA. But here's something that's going to hurt the SSA. You know, the SSA is like down to 55,000 employees. It's like 25 to 30 years backwards in time as to how many employees they actually have. They don't have enough staff. They can't process things quickly. So the bottom line, just to be fair with this situation, is that when the SSA tries to receive calls from you, process claims with you, process things in a timely fashion, they went from 3 to 6 months to process a disability claim to essentially 17 to 18 months realistically to process a disability claim. Now, this having massive immigration is going to cause an even further slowdown. Why? Well, when people are on SSI and they're given the 7-year provision, you still need the employees at the SSA to interact with them. If you have more immigrants that are requesting basically, SSI benefits for their child or SSI benefits for themselves, then that's going to slow down the process because you're going to have more staff to go ahead and interact with specifically these immigrants on top of those who would traditionally get the benefits. So is it going to slow down the process even more? Yeah, we might be seeing, to be fair, because of the massive unfiltered immigration that we're having, we might see the wait for disability benefits at an initial filing level get pushed out from 17 to 18 months into like 20 to 21 months. And that's a real cost of massive unfiltered immigration. Like, not using the door, a lot of people get in, yada, yada, yada. Now, with that said, and I want to say this, we have to have immigrants. Now, people will say they just have to use the right and traditional door pathway to go ahead and get status. And that's not incorrect. That is correct. That is the correct way to have immigration. What we have right now is silly bonkers. It doesn't make sense. It's purely just buying votes in the future. My whole thing is this. You're going to be seeing between Biden and Trump a lot of throwing of comments back and forth. The whole thing with Biden is that he has what sounds like the more ethical plan. Make those rich pay their fair share. But it's actually a shit plan because it's just going to raise the prices for the poor and the middle income people to buy the products that they always buy. So it's actually, instead of making the rich pay their fair share, the rich will then pass those costs onto the poor and middle income class. So, realistically, it's a shit idea. It's going to fail. It's horrible. It's not smart. It's just a bad idea. Then you have the Republicans who are presenting all these, financial security options to increase the longevity for Social Security benefits into the future, right? All that stuff. Those individuals are just going to piss off everybody because my generation does not want to wait and wait and wait and wait and wait until they're 70 to 75 to 80 years old to go ahead and receive their retirement benefits. It's just not on the cards. We don't want it. We're not going to put up with it. It's bullshit. So as a result of that, right, as a result of this particular dilemma, you have to have some middle territory. Now, can immigrants over a longer period of time, right? Can they over a longer period of time go ahead and increase the trust funds? Yeah, absolutely. No doubt about it. Absolutely. It's increased contributions. And some of them will never take because they'll never have enough time to go ahead and earn their 40 quarters of coverage. Although earning 40 quarters of coverage is not hard. Because remember, it's basically, you can get 4 per year, right? You need essentially 40. So it doesn't take that long to get 40 quarters of coverage. So they would have to be older or potentially disabled when they came to this country to not be able to opt into that. In which case, if they don't have enough quarters of coverage, they might be able to go into SSDI benefits because that requires less quarters of coverage, but most likely to go onto SSI. Now, what you should all be thinking about, what you should all know and understand about the future of this whole thing is that you will see how aggressively the SSI population increases over the next couple of years. So let's go to Google real quick. How many SSI recipients are there? Okay. So what we're looking at is total figures around 7.5. Let's see if we can figure it out by year. Okay. Let's see if we can get a chart real quick. Let's go over to images, see if they mapped out a chart. Okay, they don't have one that's cute and easy to read. Let me pop over here. Hold on. Social Security statistics. Let's see if we can find it here. Okay, let's see if we got it. How many disabled workers? And no, we don't want that. We don't want survivors. We don't want retired. We want SSI. Good job, Google. You did not find the thing that was important. All right, so let's look this up. Let's use the basic. In December of 2022, there were 7.5 million people receiving supplemental security income. Okay, so let's look at 2021. In 2021, there were 7.7 million people receiving SSI payments. Okay, so it actually went down in 2022. Let's look at 2020, because you know this is going to go up because there's going to be a lot more immigrants on it. So 2020, there were income program in addition to 60%. Hold on, we're getting kind of a weird figure here. It's saying, hold on, I want to find the specific thing because I don't think that number is correct. It's way too low. Hold on. No, that can't be correct. No, absolutely not. Hold on. 86% SS recipients payment due to blindness. No. So the quick AI thing said 3.4 million people. That's not correct. That's just not correct. So saying only 3.4 million. No, that there's no way there's that. I don't know. Let's go to 2019. There's no way it's that low. 8.1 million in December of 2019. 2018. 8.1 million in 2018. 2017. 8.2 million. 2016. You know, to me, they must be 8.3 million. They must be playing with the numbers because that doesn't make sense. Unless they're specifically not counting immigrants on SSI through that SSI program. Unless they're only considering disabled. But that can't be. All right, so something that I would look into that I think we should do a video on. SSI is split up into like a couple of programs because it's the program of last resort. Number one, SSI basically is your classic disability program for those who have never paid in. Number two, SSI is for old age, those who are 65 and older who don't have enough quarters of coverage. Number three, SSI is for those who are immigrants. So my question is, if we have so many more immigrants and so many more are going into SSI benefits, well, why is the number of SSI recipients going down? We are having, especially after COVID, more disabled people. There's a whole new category of disabilities related to COVID. So I think the numbers are interesting, and I think in the future we will do a video specifically on that because if anything, the SSI numbers should be increasing. Now, one thing we should look at, because this would be very telling, is how many people are on SSDI benefits. Because SSDI benefits are the disability program specifically for those who paid into it. So how many SSDI recipients were there in 2022? Let's see what the AI comes up with. 7.9 million. Okay, how many in 2021? Receiving disability insurance, disabled workers, disabled, okay, disabled adult children. 9.2 million. 2020. Let's see what 2020 is. 9.5 million. Now, this is, I think, SSDI plus disabled widows, disabled children, stuff like that. So it's including, the paid in programs, whether you paid in or your parent paid in. Let's look at 2019. 9.7 million. This is very interesting because 9.9 million for 2018. So what that means is that across the board, there is a significant decrease in those who are disabled, or at least on the disability programs each year. that means, yeah, Google must not, I would have a hard time accepting that. I don't feel that many people would have passed away from COVID to offset how many people are on disability benefits. That's A. B, I mean, sure, you could say that they're kicking off a lot of people with the CDR units, but I don't think that's enough to offset it by that many hundreds of thousands of people. It's not. It's not enough. It's not enough. We have to do a video on this because, to be fair, this does not make sense. In my opinion, to be fair, the number of disabled people should be increasing. Now, the number of people applying for disability benefits has gone down a little bit. Yes, that is true. But I just don't see that many people passing away, moving out of the country, going back to work, relieving their status as disabled. I just don't see it. So this is something I'm going to study and take a look at because this is very, very interesting. Tenebra said, so what happens when illegals have a review? Does the person with the stolen identities fill in for them? Yeah. So here's the thing. CDR units can actually go ahead and review these individuals. I don't have a lot of information because they don't share it online about what their procedures are when it comes to immigrants receiving SSI benefits. In fact, a lot of the laws and regulations related to immigrants receiving SSI benefits for the 7 years, there's just not much out there. Not a lot is published. So we really need a team of people to go ahead and do an investigation into how SSI benefits work and what the numbers are for how many immigrants there are. So in the future, I will look into this. I think it's important. I will catch you a little bit later, and we will go to the next video. The next video is going to be a video where somebody's actually going to be calling in. We're going to be checking in on an idea. And the real question with the next video is if there were to be a lottery system for the disabled and retired and Social Security recipients to receive the potential of winning a bigger check. If we were to have that, should we exclude SSI people or include them because they're not going to have enough money to actually buy tickets for the raffles sort of situation? So it's an interesting question. I want to hear your thoughts on it. I will be seeing you guys in the not too distant future. Kevin, thank you for the $2 donation. Kevin said, do they have working programs now? Checks and work. There are obviously work programs that are being put in place, but obviously for the millions of immigrants coming in, it's not a balanced equation. So that is an issue. All right. I will catch you guys at the next video, and I will see you in about 10 minutes. So I will see you soon, and just catch up with me at the next video. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful night, and see you soon. All right. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.